Yo, what's going on, guys? This is Houston Sports Talk back into the video today, and today the Sacramento Kings have made their new head coaching hire, and it is going to be the interim head coach that took over when they fired Mike Brown. And I think this is a good decision for this on the Sacramento Kings end. Mike Brown obviously was a great head coach for them in 2 seasons. We can look at 2.5. It wasn't even 2.5 because they fired him 31 games in. He's still 11 games off of being, 10 games off of being a half a season. So, not even 2.5 seasons of Mike Brown being the Kings head coach. I think the first 2 years were bright. They reached 50 wins in Mike Brown's first year, went to the playoffs, lost in 7 games against the Warriors. Even though they were a play-in team last year, I think it's key to note that they still were 46-36, which is a solid record, but just in the Western Conference, that's not great, and you'll be a play-in at 46-36. In the Eastern Conference, you should be in the top 6 or better. If you're 46-36. So, Mike Brown is a great head coach. I really hope he gets the opportunity he deserves. I don't know if it will come this offseason or next offseason. Maybe it might be next offseason. We'll see. But, and I hate the words that are about to come out of my mouth because I really criticized the Kings when they fired Mike Brown because he is such a good head coach. And I thought he did make such an impact on this Kings team in their first 2 seasons, which he did. But Doug Christie did a better job in Sacramento this year than Mike Brown did. Doug Christie took over. Team went 27-24. And, I know that doesn't sound very good, but, it was a lot better than the 13-18 start that the Kings got onto with Mike Brown. And so Kings did play better basketball under Doug Christie. That's a good reason, I believe, why he is a good fit to be their next head coach. They're also familiar with him. The players on the roster are familiar with him, and so being familiar with your head coach, your new head coach, is good. And so I really like the hire for them. It's a multi-year deal. We'll see how his first full season goes down. I think that the Kings could have been in a better position if he was the coach full season. Because if you look at if they would have played that type of basketball through 82 games with Doug Christie that they did in the last 51 games he coached. Where the team went 27-24, the team ended up winning 40 games. If they would have been able to go, who knows, maybe. And I'm just saying, this is obviously this didn't happen, but if the team would have been able through the first 31 games would have been able to go maybe 28-25. Would be no. It would have been if they would have been able to go instead of 13-18 throughout the first 31 games, been able to go maybe 18-15. No. It would have been 16 and 15 since it was the first 31 games. So if they would have been able to go like 16-15 or 17-14 through the first 31 games of the season instead of this 13-18 start, Sacramento might have been able to reach, potentially reach in the area of 40, maybe as high as 45 wins, and that would have put them in a better position in the seeding because they only had 1 game to play in the play-in. They played Dallas, they lost, that was it. They were the 9 seed, hosted the playoff game. They could have been an 8 or 7 seed if they would have gotten off to a better start this season. If it wasn't for the terrible 13-18 start, and there could have been a better opportunity for this Kings team if they were the 7 or 8 seed, because you don't only have, if you're the 9-10 seed, you've got 1 shot. You lose, it's it. If you're the 7 or 8 seed, you get 2 games to lose. You only can lose 1, but it's not 1 game and it's over. And so that's the thing I look at with this Kings team. I want to see a full season of Doug Christie, because if they can play the basketball that they played through 82 games as they did for Doug Christie's 51 games, they could win around maybe 44 to 45 wins, potentially, which is 4 or 5 more than they had this year with Doug Christie. But I think you also have to consider the potential changes that this Kings roster might have this year. So Doug Christie might have a worse roster next year. That's something to consider. DeMar DeRozan, there are talks about DeRozan, Levine, and Sabonis. What is their future? And so if you lose one of those guys, or maybe multiple, if they decide to trade either one of them or two of them, then there's this thing about maybe this Kings team is in the bottom tier of the Western Conference. So we'll see what happens with this Kings team. I think it all depends on what happens after this. Was this something Domas Sabonis was okay with? I think that's another thing, because I think if you're the Sacramento Kings, you have to make it very important that Sabonis is okay with the hire. He is your franchise player right now. You trade De'Aaron Fox. He is your franchise player. So if he was okay with this hire, then that can set into good things for this Kings team. Because if Sabonis was okay with this hire, then he might be happy to stay in Sacramento, and maybe DeRozan and Levine follow, and maybe they could add in some pieces through the offseason. Keep in mind, I mean, they made some trade deadline additions at the, late in the year that, guys that didn't play on their team earlier in the year. Like, I loved the Jonas Valanciunas trade. That was such a good trade. He played good basketball during some time that Sabonis was on the floor. I think they should, potentially try to explore a double big lineup with them. Sabonis is such a good three-point shooter, it could work. But, so let me know your thoughts on the hiring of Doug Christie, who was the interim head coach for the final 51 games of the season for the Sacramento Kings, and the team went 27-24. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and peace out.